Dude,
that.
Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
All right, it's time to welcome in the most recent champion on the PGA Tour, Michael Brennan. Michael, congratulations on winning the Bank of Utah Championship. Just a fantastic performance. I mean, it's still pretty recent enough to where I imagine your mind still probably is in a place of, holy crap, I'm a winner on the PGA Tour. To take me through where you're at right now, just slightly removed from winning this golf tournament.
Yeah, Smiley, thanks for having me on. I'm still trying to kind of figure out where I'm at right now. It's hard to even put it into words, you know. It's I don't know, just trying to figure out what our schedule is going to look like for the rest of the year, what I'm going to play in. I am going to play in the last 3 fall events, but beyond that,
nice. You
know, I'm really not too sure. It's crazy to think I'll be getting ready for Sony in January. That's just insane to me, you know. It's crazy. In the PGA, in the players, it's just, it's a lot to take in. And I kind of finally got through most of the text messages yesterday, which was good. The last couple of days, I didn't really do a whole lot other than stay up way later than I should have and respond to text, but all good things, you know. Love to see all that support. And so it's really awesome, but yeah, it's a little crazy.
Isn't it kind of helpful that there's a week off after this event, that you had some time to be able to go home instead of heading to Cabo or heading to Jackson somewhere in the fall, where you felt like, oh, wow, I got another start on the PGA Tour. Let's keep this thing rolling. It's probably nice to be able to just get home and just be able to settle into, you know, having some time with your friends and family. I saw that amazing celebration at your home golf club. What golf course was that, by the way?
It's called the River Creek Club in Leesburg, Virginia.
They were pumped. They looked like they were hydrated too.
Yeah, fired up. Yeah, I just have so much support at the club. That's where I grew up playing. My dad's been a founding member there for, I don't know, 24 years or 25 years, something like that. So we know a lot of people out there, and it was so awesome that they came out and supported us. But I'm so glad that this week was off and I could spend it at home. I was on the phone yesterday with a friend of mine and our family, Bruce Crampton. He was a former tour player. He's about to turn 90, but played with Jack and Arnie. He's from Australia. And I met him when I was, I don't know, maybe 15 years old or maybe younger than that, actually, at a golf tournament. And he's kind of helped me along the way, just been a friend. And I talked to him yesterday, and he's big on your adrenaline running out and, you know, getting tired, you know, post something like this. And I was just saying to him, I didn't understand as a kid why guys would take weeks off after a win. I was like, dude, you're playing the best golf. Why stop? But I completely understand it now. If I was trying to do this and prepare for another tournament, I wouldn't get back to everybody, and I'd prep really poorly. I'd do both things bad. You know what I mean? So I'm really glad that I had a week off.
It's completely understandable, because I had won, and we actually have kind of similar stories, at least on how quickly we won on the PGA Tour. I won in my, I guess, 5th PGA Tour event, if you include the U.S. Open. You won in your 3rd PGA Tour event, if you include the U.S. Open. So we both have won at an early age. But one of the interesting parts after that Shriners event that I won, there was a week off, and then I went to Jackson. And and Johnson Wagner and Graham Dillette still give me a hard time. They're like, dude, you acted like such a prima donna. I was like, my expectations going into this week was pure perfection. I had not closed the door of playing a perfect Sunday at Summerlin and at Shriners. And I just was in this mindset of I have to continue to make birdie after birdie after birdie. My expectations were through the roof. And those guys pulled me after. It's all right, you can't act like this on the PGA Tour every single day. And I'm like, okay, lesson learned. That was my fault. Got a little too good for my shoes there for a second, but understandably it's difficult to kind of reset. So very good for you to be. Looks like you're at home in Leesburg. Where is Leesburg, by the way?
Yeah, Leesburg. It's an hour northwest of DC. Almost pretty much as far north as you can get in Virginia.
And you went to school at Wake Forest. So in your recruitment, where all were you looking to go to school? Because Wake Forest, plenty of tradition there. You got Arnold Palmer, of course, carrying the flag. And then a lot of recent really good players with Zalatoris, Cameron Young, and then Bill Haas, of course, had an incredible history there. And Jerry, was that is Bill and Jerry? All right. So is that his?
So
what?
Bill is Jay Haas's son, and Jerry Haas, the coach at Wake, is Bill's nephew, Jay's younger brother.
Got it. Okay. Got it. I knew there's a lot of Haas connection there at Wake Forest.
Big Haas connection.
Talk about your recruitment. How'd you end up there? Yeah.
Kyle Haas is Jerry's son, and he's
I don't think I know him.
He's a junior at Wake right now. He's playing for the team in the lineup. Yeah, good player.
Okay. Look out for him.
So he's a junior. But recruitment, I didn't have my mom went to Florida Southern and my dad didn't go to college. So I didn't have a team I pulled for growing up really. I guess I rooted for UVA, maybe the hardest because I liked their colors as a young kid. But that was like literally it.
They got a good golf program too. So I imagine
they do. Yeah, they do. So when I was being recruited, I was really open to anything. I had no ties to any big university or anything like that. Visited UVA early, went to the Naval Academy. Actually, I think that was my first ever visit, or maybe second after UVA. But anyways, it was really cool, kind of cool experience. But after a couple of years, like freshman, sophomore year of high school, I narrowed it down to, I would say my top three were probably Wake, Clemson, and Vandy. It was a tough pick between those threes. I'd make like these little, decision matrix. I was like a nerdy engineering, guy in high school. And if I could tell I wanted to go to Wake Forest because whatever I would weigh, whether it be practice facilities or coach. And if I came to a decision other than Wake, if Vandy, came out first or something like that, then I'd be like, all right, I got to rework the system because this can't be right. And I felt like that was kind of a telling thing that, maybe I really want to go to Wake.
Incredible. It's a great program. I know Jerry's done an incredible job there as the tenured coach. When you just think about golf growing up as a kid, was there a certain player that you tried to model your game after when it comes to just players that you either cheered for or tried to emulate your swing or how they played the game?
Not really. Like there's no one in particular. Tiger Woods is my favorite golfer.
Sure.
So I grew up, and I think my coach and I alike. We will, oftentimes find clips on Instagram, even now, and of Tiger saying this or doing that, and maybe trying to put a piece of their into the game. I have recently, like within the last couple of years, watched Rory hit a lot of golf balls online, obviously, just because the way his like lower body works and the way he uses the ground is perfect. And
what do you hold on when you say that? What do you see? Like what are the things that you notice? You talk about how you have an engineering. You talked about a nerdy background. Like so, are you seeing certain things from a ground force of how he pushes off the ground that you try to emulate in your swing? Because you obviously hammer the golf ball too. So what exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah. So like in my swing, I have a tendency to get too far into my backside in the backswing. I kind of won't really my right big toe will lose pressure, if that makes sense. And I'll roll to the outside of the foot. My hips will shift too far right. So I kind of lose some posture there. And then I have trouble when I do that, I can't get far enough left on the way down. So like the hips and I can't get enough pressure left because I'm already so far right. I kind of have to recover to neutral, but then I can't get ahead of the ball. Like if you watch Scotty, his hips go so lateral, on his way down. And he's maybe a little unique. It's more than most, but Rory, he just does it so well. He stays so good inside his right hip. And then such a great load, kind of a bit of a squat when the club's at the top and a great shift into the left side. He banks his right foot so well. I mean, there's just so much good to try to copy. So in my swing, I try to get, I've been working on trying to get the hips and the lower body kind of working more left on the way through. And that's in particular, like what I'm looking at when I'm watching Rory's face-on swings.
What have the Jays done all season long? And you've seen it, Kev, as a fan of the AL East. They get murdered or lose a heartbreaking game and come back and punch you in the face. They're not. It's what, like the old Jays team used to fold, and that's what I used to hate about them. These guys are different. They're like guys you go to war with. It's like, man, you're my buddy. Like, let's go. Like, their clubhouse dynamic, I've never seen a Blue Jay team where everyone gets along.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Apparently, he's a pretty darn good defensive coordinator. The 49ers are decimated by injury. This guy's doing it again. Wade Phillips, Norv Turner, all these guys, there's a lot of great coordinators out there. I'm not so sure Mike McDaniel isn't a real good coordinator, a run game coordinator, a quarterback coach with the 49ers during some Super Bowl years. Maybe he's just not built to be a head coach.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I think a divorce is coming. I don't think LeBron finishes the year with the LA Lakers. And the trump card he tried to play has backfired on him big time. And I'm here for all the smoke. I got my marshmallows. I got my skewers. I got the fireplace. I'm going to sit back, kicking my feet, and watch the LA dysfunction play out in real time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state, you're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, you know, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
So for you, being a very long player, you were touching 190 ball speeds this past week in Utah. So has that always been something that you've had as a junior golfer growing up? Have you always been able to hit it far, or is that something you've had to work on, or is this kind of a natural God-given gift you got?
No, I didn't. I wouldn't say I was always the long guy. I was maybe average in junior golf, like wasn't a super short knocker, but I was not long. There were a lot of guys who hit the ball a lot further than I did. But my golf coach, Adam Harrell, he, even at a young age, I started working with him when I was 12 or 13, just encouraged me to swing the club really fast at the end of like a range session or stuff like that. And I think that had a huge impact, but probably the biggest development were my trainers I've had the last couple of years. Jason Mish is my trainer at Peak Institute. I've been with him for 7 or 8 years now. And so I started seeing him in high school and just helped me develop a really good understanding for, you know, kind of the breaks in my swing, how I get power, making sure I'm able to slow everything down so I don't get hurt, you know, moving at these higher speeds. And then I went out to Wake Forest, and Coach Bass, our trainer at school, was really good. He was TPI certified. He went out to San Diego, did the Greg Rose TPI stuff. So he had a really great understanding for what's going on in the swing. And I felt like that's pretty unique for a college coach to have that level of like golf expertise. Normally you don't see a college trainer like that. And Jason, my trainer back home, who I still continue to work with, you know, he would always say that Coach Bass is the most favorite college trainer, you know, he has ever worked with, because normally they just ignore him and, you know, think that it's, you know, doing the golf stuff is crazy. So I really kind of steadily got quicker as soon as I started seeing Jason somewhere around middle of high school. And then throughout college, I got faster as well. I went into college with a all out max club head speed, like 125, which is still pretty quick.
That's fast.
You know, that was senior year of high school, maybe. And then I left school at 135 was my max.
Whoa. That's kind of swinging the stick pretty quick there, Michael.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, being able to pick up 10 miles an hour of, top end club head speed I feel like that's a lot, in a 4-year stretch, especially while you're at school and you've got a lot of other things to worry about.
So how did that help you in winning golf tournaments in college? You won 8 times and had obviously an incredible career at Wake Forest. But the managing of how to win, anybody can go and I shouldn't say anybody, but anybody with skill like yourself can put in time to try to swing it as hard as you can, but managing also accuracy and distance, and then also winning golf tournaments. That's an entire formula that isn't exactly easy to put together. How were you able to do that in college? To win 8 times?
Yeah. I didn't know what to expect going into college. I was not like an AJGA player kid growing up. That's not something my family did. So I knew a lot of the names, but I maybe wasn't as close with, some of the top players as they were, because they played in the same junior circuit growing up and stuff like that. So I got to school and my first goal was just making the lineup. Like, I want to play in a tournament. But then I had some early success. I played well the first 4 events of college, played really well. Won twice. And I was like,
off to the races.
I was like, wow. And my first thought was maybe similar to you, winning at Shriners. I was like, man, college golf, like, this is easy, I'm just going to dominate for the rest of my career. Like, I'm going to win 6 times my freshman year and turn pro. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's kind of where my head was at. And, so not true. I played 4 great events, and then I played probably 6 horrendous golf tournaments to finish up my freshman year. And that was a great learning lesson for me. I don't know, got way ahead of myself and didn't manage it well, and probably too many expectations, but yeah, definitely kind of had like a Jekyll and Hyde freshman year in college. And I think that kind of helped just with my golf development, maybe temper the emotions and expectations a little bit after having success, like just realizing that it can go bad pretty quickly. And, and I think that knowing that kind of helps me even now, like when things are going well, you can't take it for granted and you can't expect it to last forever. So there's, there's an element of like, even when you're playing well, like, let's get better, and try to improve, because if you don't, then you're going backwards. But yeah, I think I'm a fairly intense competitor, and I think I play some of my better golf when I am not upset and pissed out on the golf course, but focused,
fuels you,
and try to take everything in. And so I think that helps me when I'm in contention and stuff like that. I'm able to, I don't know. I think that extra focus and nervousness of being in the lead or close to the lead, almost heightens the awareness a little bit. But yeah, in college, I was really hot or cold. Really, my whole college career. Like, I'd either win a tournament.
I never won 8 times though, man. That's you had hot.
I hot, like it was hot. There were some weeks that were hot, and then I'd win, and then I'd go finish 50th the next week in a 60-person field, and it's like, well, how is that possible? I've been very fortunate, up to this point as a pro to notice a little bit more consistency, which has been great. Definitely a little less stressful than what I was doing in college, because it kind of felt in a way like I didn't really know where the wins were coming from. Maybe there were some trends, like I'm starting to hit a little bit better, but it felt like I'd show up to a tournament and be like, well, let's see what we got. Maybe it's going to be great. Maybe it's going to suck, but I'm not too sure.
Well, initially, Michael, I would say the PGA Tour U system, when you're a pro just getting out there and you go through Q School, you go through Korn Ferry, you get out to the tour, and there's plenty of other, really, really good college players that didn't make those jumps quite as fast as I did, that were, really guys that were beating me in college. And so when this PGA Tour U system came out, I was like, golly, I'm not a huge fan of it, but over time, I would say that I found that I've been more of an advocate for the PGA Tour U system, because it gives these guys opportunities for pathways to the PGA Tour. And especially I think with Live Golf, it's changed a lot too, that, the PGA Tour can now have college players have something to play for when they're in school.
You see this team, and they're talking about A.J. Brown still. It's an injury. We want him. Are we going to ship him? This situation has to play out in the sense of, I think he wants to be there, but at the end of the day, you can't disrupt the locker room every single week. And the Eagles need him to be there if they're going to make a Super Bowl run.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The playoff matchups for Asher Genty are not great. We start to look ahead. I know it's early, but it's not that early. So Genty, I think, is still a better long-term guy than is maybe a redraft situation, especially with the schedule maps out. But I don't see a lot of games where he's potentially in a situation where the Raiders are ahead and running the football a ton, if you know what I mean. It's kind of tough out there for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Are they chanting? Is it over? Does he
They'll be
accept
gone
the
by
resignation?
halftime. No,
are they chanting fire?
Probably.
Kelly,
Yeah,
clap, clap,
it would
clap,
be.
clap,
It
clap.
would be warranted. It would be. I mean, you won a national championship in 2019. You're getting top 5, top 10 recruiting classes each and every year. You had the quarterback back to back to back to back. How many more chances are you going to get? I mean, really, what are we doing here?
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
One playoff win, and it's been a train wreck in every other year. But if we all agree that he was right in how he handicapped the quarterback talent coming out of that draft, and they got the right guy, and I think we all do agree on that, then what's the benefit of bringing a totally new voice into the room to now be the coach of Jackson Dart?
The Craig Carden Show, only on SportsGrid.
I'm curious here because I'm interested to hear what your mindset was when you finished the PGA Tour U system at Wake Forest, and I believe it's Is it 2 through 10 get Korn Ferry Tour status, and then the first guy gets PGA Tour status, and then outside the top 10, you get PGA Tour America status. I guess maybe from 11 to I'm not sure what the number is, but I saw that you finished 12, and I want to know what your mindset was. Just narrowly missing out on the Korn Ferry Tour, because the difference between the Americas Tour and the Korn Ferry Tour, for most players, they know how big of a jump that is from, like, gosh, I got to travel to South America, to Canada, versus being like one step closer to playing on the PGA Tour at the Korn Ferry.
Yeah. So 11 through 25, I think now get America's Tour status out of college. And yeah, I was 9 going into the national championship my senior year. So I was, inside of the cut. And I played fine. I didn't play horrendous, but there were some guys that played really well. I remember Carl jumped me. He started outside and he played a really nice national championship and jumped me. I don't remember who else. I don't know why I remember him, but, but then he went out and won on the Korn Ferry Tour and then has won on the PGA Tour now. But even finishing 12th, I was upset coming out of college. I was like, dang, the America's Tour, like, who cares? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. It's way more difficult. Now you're traveling. you're not in the States. You're going to places you're not comfortable with. These golf courses are not the same as American golf courses. It's just hard. You're playing for way less money. It's not an easy way to get to the PGA Tour, but guess what? It is a pathway.
Mm-hmm. No, I think my expectations were well exceeded on the America's Tour than what I thought it was going to be like when I graduated, and went out and played. I played the second half of the summer in 24 in Canada and had some success, played solid. I think I made 7 of 10 cuts and a couple top 5s. And I really had a good chance of winning the tour championship, which was in Toronto at TPC Toronto, the North Course, where they played the Canadian Open last year, and then we'll play again this year. I had like a 4-shot lead with 6 holes left, and I lost. Oh
man,
it was not good. Yeah, I made a double on 13.
Would that have gotten your Korn Ferry Tour status if you would have won that event?
if I won, I would have gone to 4th in the points. And
oh man,
would have graduated. Yeah.
All right, so you just had two you're 9th going into the national championship, looking like you're going to get a Korn Ferry Tour card, 6 holes away from a Korn Ferry Tour card in Toronto. And now all of a sudden, how do you reset heading into 2025, going back to playing the Americas? What did you learn about your game? What did you learn about yourself?
Yeah, the end of 24 was tough. I think the fact that it was the very last tournament, so it's kind of like an all or nothing, and I didn't do it, and I didn't, come up with the trophy, and so I felt like I was like, now what? I'm back home, sitting on my hands, I kind of have nothing to play in until second stage of Q school, and so that was tough. That was definitely frustrating. I was upset with what I was thinking out on the golf course. I just wanted to go back and redo it, basically, and I was upset that I couldn't go do that.
What did you learn? Was it the way you were thinking? Were you thinking too forward? Were you just thinking about let's finish this as fast as possible? Take me through what your mindset was in this last, I guess maybe that day or the last 6 holes, wherever you want to take me.
Yeah, it was we had really tough weather that weekend. Saturday, Sunday, it was cold and windy and rainy, and the course is kind of tough. And I was through 11 holes on Sunday, I was, I think, 8 under for the tournament, and I had a 5-shot lead. So 3 under was in second. Yeah, it was playing like really, really hard. I had just birdied the 11th hole, which is a really, really tough par 3, and I was cruising. I mean, wind was blowing 25. I felt like I had such good control of the ball. And I made kind of a bad bogey on 12, but I was like, whatever, still playing great. And then I walked past the scoreboard going from 12 to 13, and we're playing in twosomes. And the Americas Tour, like, there are scoreboards out there, but it's maybe not as many as you would see on the PGA Tour. And so I only really knew what was going on with the guy I was playing with. And he was playing fine, but like, it was a tough day. He was probably a couple over, I was maybe 5 or 6 clear of him. I didn't know what else was happening, but I just figured that someone else would be playing decent and would be kind of close to me, and I was a little shocked when I saw the scoreboard, and it showed me at a 5-shot lead. They hadn't put my bogey in, so it was actually probably 4 at the time, but I thought I was like maybe tied for the lead, and seeing that big gap, and kind of what I thought I was and where I actually was, I was a little surprised, to see that. And it definitely threw me for a bit of a loop.
There's a far longer track record of the Chiefs laying huge numbers and not covering them with Mahomes than anything on the contrary.
And they did that a lot last year where they didn't cover those numbers, but a lot of the time last year they didn't have Rice and they weren't fully healthy, and now they are fully healthy. And now we have an offense that has 4 viable receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
The governor calls you out in the football state, you're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor, because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, All Team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
And I was playing so well, I was like, man, like, I'm going to win this golf tournament. And I was thinking that on 13T. And then my next 2 holes were a double and a quad. So.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Did everything just start going so quick? Wow.
My gosh. I was on, like the fast lane of the Autobahn. And I was flying out there. It was, I like double chipped on 13. It's a tough hole, but could have made bogey and been fine. And then 14's a par 3, hit it, winds whipping off the left, kind of heel push a 7-iron into fescue. I go underneath the first one.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like sitting deeper in the fescue. I advanced it 0 inches. I hit it over the green into a bunker, like big downslope, chunk it, plug it into the face of the bunker. Chunk that, and then I got up and down for quad.
Hey,
yeah.
way to grind it out, bro.
yeah, I know.
Gosh,
so
I could see why you have that sour taste in your mouth in this off season. That you're just, I mean, it was right there, but it was over like that. It wasn't just a slow
quick.
Bleed. It was just
so quick.
It was just a quick accident. And you're and you're thinking already into next year. All right, so let's go to 2025 at the Americas, because what a season that you had this past year. I mean, unbelievable golf. I looked at your stroke average was insane. A 67 stroke average. I mean, come on, dude. Like, this was some incredible golf. I know the courses probably not quite nearly as difficult as what you see on the PGA Tour every week, but 67 average over a course of a season is golfing your ball. I mean, just talk about what, from a golf standpoint, what did you improve on?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good year, and it was definitely kind of good that I think I ended on such a sour note in 24, because I was pissed and determined to get back at it in 25. So I didn't get through second stage, and so after I did the second stage at Savannah, I think it was like mid-November, and I knew I was going to be back in the Americas Tour for the following year, and the season doesn't start until sometime in March. So I had several months of just kind of doing nothing. And I was down in South Florida practicing, grinding mini tour events and stuff like that. I was upset. And my coach and I, we, sat down, had discussions like, all right, like, where can we get better? And I use UpGame.
What is that?
I think it's great. It's a stat app, like it keeps track of my statistics and stuff, and gives me some really cool insight and stuff like that. I would
what type of, like, so are you just plugging in, just your greens, fairways? Are you plugging in where you're missing your greens or where you're missing your fairways? Yeah. What exact, how high level is it, I guess?
It's pretty high level, I think. The stat entry on their like pro version is you get a Google Earth picture of the hole, so you plug in the course and you get a Google Earth picture, and then you drag. So you set where the tee box is, you set where the pin is on the green, and then you drag a target line off the tee. So you know where you're trying to hit it, and then you put where your ball ended up. And then same thing into the green. You drag a target line. So say I was trying to put a ball 12 feet pin high right, I'd put a target there, even though the pin is further left. And then I put where my ball actually ended up. I put in the shape of the hole, dogleg left to right to left, the wind direction, down at the back, down off the left, down off the right, into off the left, like all of those, the shot shape, whether I'm trying to hit it cut, draw, low, high, what club I'm hitting, how far I'm trying to hit it. And then on the green, I put in the distance of the putt, how far short or past the hole the putt ends up, for speed, the break of the putt, whether I miss it low or high.
That's way more than I just expected.
Granular.
I was thinking greens, fairways, just one of those typical stat tracking apps. Dude, that's insane. No. What have you learned from that? Have you found that, okay, in left to right winds, I typically miss it further to the right, or putts that I'm reading to go to left or right, I'm missing those low more often. Like, what has been your trend that you found in your game using this?
Yeah, I mean, off the tee, I play a little bit of a cut. So for me, like dogleg right to left with a left to right wind, that's kind of a hard hole. And my miss is it's too far right. So
Welcome
that's
to the
something
club.
that I've
Welcome to the
learned.
club.
Yeah, yeah. That's especially with driver. With 3-wood, it's a little better, and so that's kind of something I learned. Like when I have that situation, I'm probably now trying to hit like a kind of a flighted draw 3-wood to hold it up into the wind as opposed to letting it ride. Because if I let it ride and the face is open or I hit it off the heel, then it's gone right. And so like that's something I learned. And then even I had a meeting with one of the Upgame staff people after the Americas season a couple weeks ago, and we were looking at my 45-yard dispersion off the tee, driver 3-wood 3-iron. So like 22.5 yards on either side of my center line. And my percentage with driver and 3-wood were nearly identical. And so he's like,
when in doubt, hit driver?
Never hit. Huh?
I said, when in doubt, hit driver, pretty much.
Yes, exactly. He's like, you drive it great. Your percentages with driver are high. Don't hit 3-wood unless there's a bunker that's, at 300 that I have to stay short of or something like that. He's like, just send driver. And so getting insights like that, learning where I'm good on the putts and where I'm bad on the putts is cool. And around the green, I can put in like whether it's an easy, medium, or hard chip. And then I know where my like feet to the hole is after each like level of difficulty. So I can help plan like whether on a drivable par 4, if I want to hit driver and get super aggressive around the green, I can see like, all right, well, I'm going to have a hard chip maybe 50% of the time. And I'm going to average a 12-footer after a hard chip. I don't know if these are correct. These are just kind of averages. I actually think a hard chip is closer to like 19 feet for me. Or I could hit a 7-iron off the tee and have 100 yards in, and I know what my proximity is going to be from 100 yards, and which one's better, where am I going to have a closer putt and stuff like that. So I think it's really cool learning that stuff, and Upgame's been awesome.
Wow.
But yeah, back to the end of 2024. So I go into 25, and one thing that stood out was my bogey numbers were way too high. I made a lot of birdies in 24, but I made way too many bogeys. And so my coach and I, we looking at the stats. We're like, why are you making, these bogeys? Are you hitting it out of play or whatever? And we didn't really find that to be true. I hit driver pretty well, hit the irons pretty good. But it's really when I got up on one of the greens or around the greens, I just wasn't getting up and down enough. And so big focus on chipping and then putting inside of 10 feet. Kind of my cleanup save putts. And I think I was much, much better. I know I was much better this year in 25 than I was in 24, just at limiting bogeys. So that was a big factor for me.
Man, that's fascinating. That really is cool. And I'm actually, Charlie, I'm sure has already got the subscription for Upgame. He's probably over there typing away. It's like, all right, I'm going to be the pro level. I mean, that's cool, man. That's some high level stuff that wasn't around when I was on tour, because I think it would have, being able to just like, it's like almost like playing a video game is what it sounds like.
Yeah. So my caddy, Jeff, he's an Upgame warrior, I like to say. I mean, he spends so much time on that app just figuring out like what the best way for us to tackle a golf course is. So like before we even show up to, on property, another cool aspect of the app is you can overlay your driver dispersion, because you put in where your target line is and where it ends up. You can overlay that dispersion onto holes, of courses that you're going to go play. So, for the most part, we have a great idea of what I'm going to hit on every hole before I even get to the golf course, because I know what fits inside the hole, whether it be a driver, 3-wood, 3-iron, whatever it may be.
Michael, what's interesting too is that, you're just about to get to the PGA Tour and you haven't played any of these golf courses. You may have played some over the years, whether it's junior or amateur golf, but now like you could show up and feel comfortable when you get to these golf courses, because you're like, all right, I know what to hit on these holes in practice rounds. You don't feel quite as forced to go out and play 18 holes Monday, Tuesday to make sure you know exactly what you're doing. But that's a cool thing that really helps young guys out to really get customized to play on the tour.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a cool it's a cool app, and it's been super helpful. And Jeff, my caddy, really, I think, utilizes it, to kind of try to maximize what we get out of it, which is great.
This is a guy we should be adding. And if you added him this week, you loved life, because he was coming off not just a great Sunday last week when we were ahead of that curve, but also a great Thursday night football as well. So last week, 7 for 9 for 164 and a touchdown. This week on Thursday, 5 for 5, 77 and a touchdown. He didn't even play the first 2 weeks of the year, and he's already a top 10 tight end in scoring, if you can believe it.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Travis Hunter, Joe, is a part-time wide receiver. As I've told people from the moment he was drafted, there is zero chance long-term that they'll continue to do this. In terms of playing offense and defense, they're going to have to pick a position with him. Brian Thomas, he was unbelievable. Talking to the Jaguars about him last season, he was so far ahead of schedule where they thought he'd be super smart. He had a wrist injury, by the way. We need to mention that, Joe, earlier this season.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
SMU is undefeated. You got Louisville that knocked off Miami. Yeah. Miami has one loss. There's multiple teams that potentially can make a run for an ACC championship. So their backs are still against the wall. Like, Georgia Tech is not a shoo-in right now just because they're undefeated, because they still have to play Georgia at the end of the year as well. Even though it's out of conference, that can knock them out of the playoff.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Blue Jays are going to be dangerous for years to come because they have money. They're a fun team. Other players like Guerrero, the Blue Jays are a first-class organization. They treat the players very well. They're first-class complex. As I stated earlier, you can live like across the street from the stadium, and there's no drama. You don't have to sit in traffic ever. You have an entire country that buys your jerseys and are big fans of yours.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
All right, so on the Americans Tour, before we get off of it, because I have to ask, there has to have been, some type of nightmare travel story that you had over the 2 years, whether it was in Canada or in South America. Was there anything that comes to mind where you're like, dude, you wouldn't believe where we had to travel from or get stuck? Like, anything come to mind that was just a nightmare situation?
Yeah. I thought I was getting abducted in Rio. And so... God.
I didn't know we were going here. All right. Yeah, I'm all ears. All right.
I didn't have any crazy, lost back. I lost. My clubs didn't get put on a flight in Canada last year. But I waited until the evening, and they came and it was fine, but nothing like that. Like, clubs didn't get broken or anything, which
Did you ever hear about the guy who locked his clubs in his car in Canada and broke the window to get his clubs out? Did you ever hear about that story?
No.
It was one of my teammates. He ended up breaking his window of his rental car to get his clubs out because he had somehow locked his keys in his car, which is, I didn't know if that was like a classic story from Canada, but
no, it was. I mean, sorry to tell you, but no, I had not heard about that. That's crazy.
Take me to Rio. I'm glad you're still here, by the way.
Yeah. So Rio, they speak Portuguese, and I don't speak really any Spanish. So traveling in Argentina and Mexico and Ecuador, like, that's difficult enough for me because I don't speak Spanish. So, I'm kind of like managing. I know a couple words, but when you get to Rio,
it's a different bird.
I thought Portuguese was going to be like kind of similar. It is not. It's not at all. Completely different. And when
we played Sao Paulo on the Corn Ferry, so I had no idea what was going on there.
Yeah, I didn't know one single word in the Portuguese language, and I still only know one word. Obrigado is thank you. I don't know.
Yeah, me either.
I really don't know. I just know thank you. And so we land and we're trying to call Ubers to get to we're going to like the Rio, the tournament, the Olympic golf course is where we were playing. And it was about 45 minutes from the airport, which was cool. And so we're getting an Uber, and the cars down there in South America, as you know, they're tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And So like when I'm traveling with Jeff, my caddy, a lot of guys don't have caddies, but I traveled with Jeff everywhere. He came with me to all the events.
How many people actually
great.
had caddies? Like, were you one of the few guys that traveled with them?
I'm going to say
more than
5 to 10 would be my guess. Yeah, maybe even fewer than that. Honestly,
that had to be an advantage,
South America.
Man.
Yeah, in South America, there were some more because the caddy culture down there is totally different than it is in Canada. Like you'd get guys that, South America, Latin guys that would travel like all 6 events. And like I had buddies who couldn't speak to their caddies, but had the same caddy every single week, which was crazy. But they just made it work somehow. Yeah. So yeah. Oh yeah. Huge advantage having Jeff down in South America. And it's more expensive, but
hey, goals get to the tour, man.
Yeah. It helped me, helped me a lot. So we're in Rio and we get in this tiny car and I'm thinking there's no way we're going to get both of our big like suitcases and my clubs into this tiny rental car. And this, it's like a young kid, speaks 0 English. I speak 0 Portuguese. We're just hand signaling, trying to communicate. And he's like, no, like we can get it. And we got it. And I was actually amazed. It was impressive getting in there, but he was probably a mid-20s kid. Car reeked of weed just like right away. And I was like, all right, this is going to be interesting. We got a, long drive. Jeff and I are kind of crammed in the back with our backpacks and stuff. And we're driving. And when you get out of the airport, I mean, you're looking at the favelas, like just the really dangerous parts of Rio where the houses are, kind of just shacks basically. And it's really sad. Like the poverty is unbelievable, eye opening for me. But I'm getting told as I get into Rio, like if you go into the favelas, you're dead. And we're driving on a highway, but like kind of through it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I hope this guy just knows where he's going, and going in the right direction. I'm freaking out. Jeff, not a care in the world. He's like, dude, we're fine. Like chill out.
He's playing Candy Crush. Like he's fine.
Yeah. No, literally. He's probably doing like a crossword on his phone or like not caring. And we get to this, we get like kind of out of the city area onto a highway going through some toll roads. And I'm sitting behind the passenger seat. And so I can kind of see the driver, Jeff sitting behind the driver. And I see him, he pulls out his phone and he starts like voice to texting one of his, I don't know, friends, I guess. I don't know. And then he goes into the Uber app and I have a video on my phone, but he starts screenshotting our route and final destination. And sending it to someone on his phone.
Full panic attack.
I go full panic mode. And I start texting everyone I know down in like who's in Rio, my buddies who are traveling on the tour. On Uber, you can share your ride so they know like where you're going. I start sharing my location. I'm like, fellas, I sent them the video. I'm like, we're dead. We're not getting out of this. And we get to a toll booth and I considered getting out of the car, but we're on the middle of the highway and I'm like, my thought, the reason I didn't, I was like, I'm not going to be able to speak to anyone. No Uber is going to pick me up in the middle of the highway. Like I've got nowhere to go. Like I'm probably more dead if I get out. And so I stay in the car. I'm freaking out. And Jeff, his story is unbelievable. He's like, dude, like we're fine. He's probably texting his girlfriend, like, look at the nice hotel I'm bringing these guys to.
Y'all are just talking back and forth. Meanwhile, this guy has no idea what you're saying.
No, no clue. We have no idea what he's voice to texting. He's getting it like voice to text back from whoever he's sending our route to. I have no idea what he's saying. I'm trying to like Google Translate. And you can click it to where, they can speak and it translates it. So I'm trying to do that to get an idea of what he's sending or what he's saying. Yeah. It didn't work. So I got nothing. And I'm like sweating, like mid panic attack in the back seat. And we're fine. We're here. Nothing happened. I have no idea who he was sending it to. I don't know why he was.
Please
he tried to sell us weed when we got there, but that was it. Like,
please tell me you at least signed him a golf ball or something. Sorry for accidentally thinking you were abducting me. Here's a signed golf ball.
No,
hopefully this amounts to something one day.
Yeah, I did not. I didn't have the wherewithal to think about that. I just wanted to get out of the car. I didn't see any like sketchy looking guys coming up to mug us, and we got to the hotel and we're fine.
What have the Jays done all season long? And you've seen it, Kev, as a fan of the AL East. They get murdered or lose a heartbreaking game and come back and punch you in the face. They're not. It's what like the old Jays team used to fold, and that's what I used to hate about them. These guys are different. They're like guys you go to war with. It's like, man, you're my buddy. Like, let's go. Like their clubhouse dynamic. I've never seen a Blue Jay team where everyone gets along.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Apparently, he's a pretty darn good defensive coordinator. The 49ers are decimated by injury. This guy's doing it again. Wade Phillips, Norv Turner, all these guys, there's a lot of great coordinators out there. I'm not so sure Mike McDaniel isn't a real good coordinator, a run game coordinator, a quarterback coach with the 49ers during some Super Bowl years. Maybe he's just not built to be a head coach.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
I think a divorce is coming. I don't think LeBron finishes the year with the LA Lakers. And the trump card he tried to play has backfired on him big time. And I'm here for all the smoke. I got my marshmallows. I got my skewers. I got the fireplace. I'm going to sit back, kicking my feet, and watch the LA dysfunction play out in real time.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state, you're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, you know, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I was several weeks post tour championship at America's Tour and wasn't in any events and no real like promising, prospects into any tournaments. And so I was like, man, like, I guess I'll just get ready for Q school. Yeah. I'm just like, I'm playing good. Like, let me play, that was my pitch. And then I was driving back. I went and did a Dunning photo shoot for my clothing sponsor up in like New York City area. And I was driving back last Friday from in New Jersey, technically back home, and got a call Friday afternoon saying, hey, you're in the tournament.
This is literally 3 days before you would actually get to Utah, you get the call.
So I got the call Friday and I flew out Sunday.
Wow. Dude.
Yeah. And I was like in practice, but because I played in a Monday qualifier for Bermuda the week prior in like Orlando area. Yeah. So I was practicing for that, but like I was just up in New York doing a photo shoot, like kind of unserious. And then I get the call and then it was like, oh shoot,
it's game time.
Like, it's let's try to get this game ready and go. Yeah.
So you had won 3 times since August 10th. And so you're showing up with basically house money. You got a Korn Ferry Tour card in your back pocket. You have nothing but just birdies in front of you on a basically a golden tee golf course with hot lava rocks everywhere. I mean, what was this golf course like? Because you were absolutely striping your driver. Was there some room out there? And did you immediately know this was a golf course that you could win at?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about a golf course I could win at. Like I got one other sponsor invite into a Korn Ferry tournament end of May, and I missed the cut. And so I was like, man, I could go out here and miss the cut and, just spend a few $1,000s on the travel and stuff. And that's what I was thinking, like, man, the hotel, like we ended up staying at an Airbnb that was better, but it's like, this is going to be an expensive trip, last minute flights, I miss a cut. I'm going to be out like $5,000, and I was like, this is going to suck. But the fairways were pretty wide out there, but if you miss the fairway, there's very little rough, it's kind of like fairway or rocks. But if you're driving it decent, like, you shouldn't hit it into the rocks, because you do have some room off the tee. And I was just hitting it well enough to stay within the rocks. And unfortunately, on 18 on Sunday, that was the only ball that I hit in the rocks the entire week. But going 71 holes without doing that was pretty good.
All right, so Sunday, of course, when you sleep on a lead, you have everything to play for to try to win on the PGA Tour, and you come out and play some really solid golf that front nine. And now that I know the story about the Tour Championship on the PGA Tour Americas Tour in Canada, Toronto, where you have a 5-shot or 4-shot lead with 6 holes to play, did that ever enter the back of your brain heading into that back nine? What were the lessons that you learned from that allowed you to stay in the present and get this job done and win on the PGA Tour with everything in the world to play for,
Yeah. I was thinking about it all day, pretty much. I got off to a great start, hit some really good shots in, which was great. Kind of settled me a little bit, but then I turned with a 5-shot lead after the front nine. And I was like, holy smokes, been here before. Kind of, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Been here.
And what went wrong was I probably treated it too relaxed and calm in the Tour Championship. Like, oh, this good golf, like, because I'm playing it, it's just going to keep up. And, I'm going to play great back nine just because that's what I'm doing. And so I felt like this Sunday I took a much different attitude, more of like Jeff and I, our goal at the start of the day was to get to 25 under, which is pretty aggressive, 8 under Sunday round. But I mean, I played pretty much a perfect front nine and shot 5. And I was like, it was super plausible after that, So after every birdie I made, Jeff would just say, all right, 7 more, 6 more, 5 more, trying to count down to that 8 number. And fortunately made a bogey on 10, and we walks off the green, and we go from 3 more after 9. He's like, all right, 4 more. And, which is funny and, kind of lighthearted and kept me feeling pretty good. But yeah, just try to I knew how fast things could go bad because I had experienced it. And so knowing how things could go bad, it kind of helped me, stay more locked in. I felt like when I was out there on the back nine.
Was Jeff with you in 2024 at that event? So he had experienced that with you. So that had to help. We shed some tears after that tournament, in 24, just how hard it was. And he didn't, he felt like he had let me down, which is absolutely not the case, and I had let him down. Like he's, making no money caddying for me on the Americas Tour where he could be, working at Wake Forest degree, you know what I mean? Like could be working a nice job, but he wanted to be out there and supporting. And, so that was tough. And he knew what it was like. And he really stepped up big time on Sunday.
They got to go win and execute, and they can't be inconsistent. And that's the thing. It's like Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, really consistent. And then who is that fourth question mark? And there's been inconsistencies throughout. Hey, Michigan goes out to the West Coast and gets manhandled, and then they come back and then they win. Like, who's the consistent one that is the fourth?
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
Listen, never understood a word he said, but it doesn't matter because he was able to walk into living rooms and get kids to sign. It's a little different situation with the NIL now, but the reality is he represents Louisiana. He is Mr. Louisiana. What better? You should have never fired him to begin with in this spot. So, yeah, I hope they do reconsider and bring him back.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
There's a far longer track record of the Chiefs laying huge numbers and not covering them with Mahomes than anything on the contrary.
And they did that a lot last year where they didn't cover those numbers, but a lot of the time last year they didn't have Rice and they weren't fully healthy, and now they are fully healthy. And now we have an offense that has 4 viable receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
24 points. And 23 rebounds. Folks, let me tell you something. That's 23 rebounds versus Tennessee. Not Tennessee Tech, not Tennessee Chattanooga, not East Tennessee, West Tennessee, South Tennessee. I don't know how many Tennessees they got in that state. That's a university. He did it against Rick Barnes' kids.
College basketball today. Only on SportsGrid.